A very good evening to you and happy St George's Day. So the celebrations seen across England today have been more emphatic than I can ever remember, and this tweet this morning from the Mail on Sunday's Dan Hodges caught my eye. Dan said, "Genuine question, how many of us have actually ever done anything significant to celebrate St George's Day? Maybe we should indeed celebrate it more, but I can't honestly say I've ever done anything for it." Well, that got me thinking, because I'll be honest, I've never given St George's Day more than, I guess, a nod in the past, and I reckon lots of others are in the same boat. But something's changed this year. I think it's finally clicked that no longer should we be embarrassed about English patriotism like it's some sort of dirty little secret. And I reckon the catalyst for that has been the mission creep over the years to strip this country of all its identity. Uncontrolled mass migration, the blatant agenda to bring down the royal family, institutional embarrassment over our colonial past, or quite simply just insane suggestions that Sir Winston Churchill was worse than Hitler. And let's not forget a generation of self-loathing youngsters who have been indoctrinated to hate themselves and the nation at the altar of historic guilt. We've been coerced to forget our greatness. The Industrial Revolution, our towering cathedrals, William Shakespeare, Magna Carta, fish and chips, and the insistence that we mustn't grumble. There are forces who want to muddy our history and scupper our future because they hate everything we're about. But after years of attacks, the pendulum is finally swinging the other way. Never before has the phrase "use it or lose it" been so apt. And celebrating our country with pride, much like the Americans do, but without the embarrassment, should now be an annual event marked with a bank holiday. As the great man once said, "There is a forgotten, nay, almost forbidden word, which means more to me than any other. That word is England." But let's get the thoughts of my panel tonight. I'm joined by social commentator Esther Krakue, Conservative MP for Romford, Andrew Rosindell, and author and broadcaster Amy Nickell-Turner. Here we go. This is like my nightly bit of exercise, isn't it, doing that walk?
Really didn't make it, then.
Evening to you all. Thanks for joining me. Amy, let's start with you. A national bank holiday for St George's Day. The Scots do it, why can't we?
Well, yeah, I would be insane to turn down the opportunity of a free bank holiday, wouldn't I? And I actually think a bank holiday would be just the thing to get us a bit more interested in St George's Day.
So you support it?
Yeah, well, a free holiday, of course I do.
Just for the fact it's a free holiday? I mean, it's a bit of a lame reason.
Well, sorry. No, it would definitely do well to increase my patriotism. OK. All
right, Andrew Rosindell, I've just clocked your red socks, your red tie, and, of course, your red rose in full swing tonight. I said that was a Labour reference, that rose, but I was just having a bit of a dig at you. A bank holiday for St George's Day, yes or no?
Absolutely. I've campaigned for it for 2 decades, ever since I've been an MP. It's absolutely wrong that we celebrate St Patrick's Day. The Irish have amazing celebrations. In Scotland, it's a bank holiday for St Andrew's Day. Every country I go to around the world, they have fantastic celebrations for their national identity, their culture, their heritage. But in England, it's all dumbed down. Well, that needs to change.
Right, so you've campaigned for 2 decades, right? Why has it not happened? Why are we so ashamed about the St George's flag, St George's Day? What is it? Why can the Welsh and the Irish and the Scots all take great pride in their flag and their country, but when it comes to the English, we're so ashamed? Why is that?
I don't know, and I think it's appalling, and I think we need to change something to make it happen. Now, I've tried for many years under both governments. David Cameron, he considered it. Tony Blair, I put it to him. But nobody has grasped it. Now, the argument is that it's another bank holiday, which means another day off, and the economy can't take it. So I've suggested that you combine May Day and St George's Day and have one bank holiday, but brand it St George's Day, because that means something to the English people.
It's interesting that you said Cameron didn't consider it or swerve there. I mean, how far down the line did you get?
Well, look, every time they look at it and every time they say it's going to cost the economy a lot of money to have another day off. So that's why I'm suggesting have one bank holiday for St George's Day. You don't really need May Day because nobody really celebrates that particularly. It's just it's a non-day. So let's make it St George's Day instead. OK, good shout. Esther Krakue, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yay or nay for a bank holiday, St George's Day?
Nay.
Nay.
I actually think if your patriotism is bought by a single bank holiday, then it's very cheaply bought. And on the cost of a bank holiday, I hate to be that person. It costs the economy £2.9 billion a bank holiday. At the end of the day, I think symbols of patriotism don't necessarily have to be a flag. So the Americans basically worship their flag. But we in England...
What's wrong with that?
Well, no, it's fine. It's a bit odd, I find. the kinds of patriotism strange. I mean, I went to Universal Studios, and, you know, they have that giant ball with, like, the flags of the world.
Yeah.
And there was always a group of people that would stand by and wait for the American flag to be like, USA, USA, and, like, there are hundreds
But
of
I love
flags.
that. Why can't we be like the Americans?
No, because they're a bit strange in that regard. It's true. But I do think there are other symbols of patriotism, like the royal family. We tend to revere more institutions than something like a flag. And I think that's just English culture, and I think we should accept it. I don't think we should, you know, try and bribe people with a bank holiday to become more patriotic about St. George's Day.
Have you noticed that this year has been more emphatic than previous years? And also, Andrew, do you agree with me that it's because it's a reaction, I guess, to the feeling that, you know, slowly our identity, our culture is being eroded away? Do you see that response today?
I do, and in my constituency in Romford, we had big celebrations on Saturday. I've gone all around the constituency. Everybody wants to celebrate St George's Day. Can I just say that by not having these symbols, by not making a special day, by not celebrating it and flying the flag, do you know what we're doing? We're creating a vacuum. Something else could take its place. I think patriotism is a good thing. It brings people together. It means that everyone can be united, loving their country, cherishing their traditions and the English way of life. If we don't do it, if we don't make it something special, then something else could come, which is something more sinister.
We do have symbols. It just doesn't happen to be a flag. We're a country that reveres more institutions than flags. It's just the way that British people are.
Do you think the Scots are weirdos for, you know,
no, but the Scots
flag?
are not like Americans, and they have a completely different culture. I'm pretty sure, like, drinking isn't.
Just very, very quickly, I don't know if we've got the pictures. Show these pictures from the celebrations in London today, where the police scuffled with people who were celebrating. There was a couple of arrests for being drunk and disorderly. Why haven't we seen the same authoritarian approach by the police? They're all dressed in riot gear and batons and down there in meat wagons to people out and about just celebrating St George's Day. Why don't we see that on the pro-Palestine marches week after week, where they're carrying Nazi placards and everything else? It's a two-tier policing system we've got.
It's a one-tier police. It's just policing, and they extended the boundary that was agreed with the police. The pro-Palestine marches don't do that.
They were just
also the volume. I mean, pro-Palestine marches, just on a technicality, there are about 20 to 30,000 people that descend onto London.
Well, even more so.
This is about a few hundred people.
It looks like there's a couple hundred people there trying to walk down the street. The police, from what I can see, are intentionally stopping them from walking down the street and causing... The police from these pictures, look like they're up for a scuffle.
Because the organisers said, we will end the march at this point and then go backwards, and they extended through, and that's why the police
I find it amazing. People have been arrested for being drunk and disorderly, yet people can go down Whitehall screaming for Intifada, River to the Sea, carrying swastikas, and they don't get nicked.
This actually proves the point. Because we don't make it a proper national day of celebration, you finish up having people doing independent marches and protests and their own things. Other countries make it a national celebration. They celebrate it in schools. They celebrate it, businesses celebrate it, organisations celebrate it, and the people cherish their identity. If you don't cherish your identity, you lose it. And so we need to do more than we're doing. Otherwise, this kind of thing is going to happen even more.
I have an urgent warning to deliver to the people of Britain about the safety of our streets. In just a few weeks, Al-Qaeda's top terror chief in the UK could be released from prison after taking part in a so-called de-radicalisation programme, where he'll claim he now doesn't want to murder us all in cold blood after all. Let's get the thoughts now of my panel: social commentator Esther Krakue, Conservative MP for Romford, Andrew Rosindell, and the author and broadcaster Amy Nickell-Turner. Amy, let's start with you. You don't believe in prisons, do you?
I believe in prisons for people like this.
Oh, you've changed your tune now, because
no,
I think
I've always said prisons are to keep dangerous people away from the public and not to be used for criminalising poverty with thousands and thousands of people that shouldn't really be there. And it's probably filling up prisons with people who perhaps would be better out of prison, which has brought us to a situation where there's no room to put people who actually need to be in prison, like this guy, I would say. Now, I'm not saying it would be impossible to de-radicalise anyone, but I think in his case, you know, he's 47 years old. He, 2 years ago, was deemed still being a risk to the public. So something tells me I don't think he's going to pass this parole review.
Andrew, can jihadi extremists be de-radicalised? I don't think they can, but do you think they can?
I don't trust that at all. I wouldn't let the man out. I mean, clearly he has attempted to murder large numbers of British people. He's clearly someone that has hatred inside him. He's demonstrated that before. You cannot risk letting people like that out on the streets. There is no evidence, from what I've heard, that this man has been de-radicalised. And I think it would be a huge risk to put him on the streets and potentially radicalise other people, but also commit murder, which is what he tried to do years ago. So our first priority must surely be to protect the British public.
Revelation in the Express this evening. So tomorrow in the Daily Express, Priti Patel, the former Home Secretary, she has come out, she's broken her silence on Rwanda once again and said that she backs the Rwanda plan, she backs Rishi Sunak, and she says that the opponents of this policy have not only offered no solutions to tackle illegal migration, but have over the last 2 years given succour to those evil criminal gangs that put lives at risk. Tens of thousands across the Channel, with some perishing at sea. Andrew Rosindell, first of all, what's your thoughts on Rwanda?
Well, I voted for it last night. I want Rwanda to work. I want these people that are coming here illegally to know that if they come here illegally, they can't stay. They leave.
Well,
and this is what we have to do now. We've passed the legislation. We need to be very clear about this. If you try to get into the United Kingdom without permission, you won't be allowed to stay. And so what Priti is saying is that now we've passed this legislation, we need to let it work. Let's stop objecting, let's start supporting the policy, and those people that are coming here might then think maybe we won't even try. So hopefully we'll act.
Well, Andrew, Nigel Farage says this whole Rwanda scheme is absolutely pie in the sky. It's not going to work. It's riddled with legal loopholes. It's totally pointless. And by the way, at a cost of hundreds of millions of pounds to the taxpayer.
Look, Nigel makes good points as always, but it's now the law. We should give it a chance to work. However, I do think in the long term, we still need to leave the ECHR.
What's the plan for the remaining 99% of migrants? Because this is 200 sorted out, in theory. So what we're doing with the rest?
Right, so the point is, this is a deterrent. So if people can see that they're not going to get into Britain, that they will be sent out straight away, it's hoped that less will actually try to get here in the first place. Because the people benefiting from this are the people traffickers. They're evil. People are dying in these boats and they're making money out of it. So actually we're offering them a safe haven, a place to live and to be looked after in a place where they're actually going to be safe, which they aren't going to be if they come over on a legal boat.
Patrick Christie's tonight with me, Ben Leo, only on GB News. Time now for the rest of tomorrow's front pages. We start with the Mirror. Great story they had yesterday. They've done a follow today on Jill Dando. A key witness says a man she spotted running minutes after Starr's murder is the Serbian assassin. Really interesting story. And I couldn't believe yesterday she was only 37 when she died. The Daily Mail, biggest boost for defence in a generation, also carries that really sweet picture of Louis. The Eye says Tories unveil UK's biggest hike to military spending for a generation. The Guardian, PM to raise defence spending to put arms industry on, quote, war footing. And the Daily Express, about time too. Civil service job cuts to pay for defence boost. Rishi Sunak will axe 70,000 civil servant jobs and free up billions of pounds to boost Britain's defences. This is music to my ears, Amy Nickell-Turner.
The defence boost.
The work-shy civil servants who want to stay at home. By the way, did you know, slightly separate point, did you know that the civil service were threatening to strike because they were being forced to come into the office for 2 days a week? Absolutely outrageous. Jacob Rees-Mogg, of course, trying to get them back in the office. But now, Sunak saying he's going to axe 70,000 civil servant jobs to free up billions for our defence programme.
Right. Well, I'd like to know what they're doing first before we cut them. This is what people always talk about.
Absolutely nothing. Sitting at home in their underpants.
I'm assuming they're going to automate a lot of their jobs or bring in AI. Also, they're boosting defence spending that they cut. So is it really a boost or is it really replacing what already should have been there?
Andrew?
Well, I've always been against cuts in defence. I think it's been a mistake. And I'm very pleased the government are now going to increase defence spending. But in terms of civil servants, they really should get back to the office.
Why?
Everyone should be working. Nobody should be sitting at home and thinking the world can operate from your bedroom. People need to get back to the office. Public buildings should be properly operating, and the pandemic now should be a thing of the past. We should get back to normal life again. But unfortunately, there are still people that think they've got a right to stay indoors, and I don't think they do. I think that if they're paid by the public purse, They should come to work and do their job.
Well, I think it depends on the job they're doing. If they can do it from home, the only thing is them wanting to work 4 days a week. I think that's a brilliant idea because that's an excuse to cut a fifth of the population. Because if you can do your work 4 days a week, then you need to be employed.
They want to be paid for 5 days a week.
Well, but that's the point. But that's the point. So that is a justification for this cut because there are clearly too many of them.
So let me give you some details. So around £3 billion will be found by returning the civil service to pre-pandemic staffing levels by the end of the decade. Extra staff were brought in to deliver Brexit and deal with COVID, but staffing levels will be cut by 70,000. Senior Tories welcomed the plan to spend more cash on the military instead of Whitehall. I mean, as I said, these guys, this civil service, riddled with leftists, they don't want the government to work properly. Arguably, they brought down Boris Johnson. These people are striking because they have to go to the office for 2 days a week. Can you imagine the optics of this to people that sit at home working 9 to 5, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, even 2 jobs, that these absolute, you know, I want to call them cretins in Whitehall, crying about having to go to the office for 2 days a week?
But the thing is, it's such a cliche, isn't it, to demonise the civil service? Like, come on, we can do a little bit better than that because, you know, the reason that it comes across a lot of the time that they don't, that they're halting ministers' plans because they're the experts in ministers' plans and can see whether they will work or not, whether they're realistic or not. So I don't think it's entirely fair
believe in the blob and the
to
deep
tar
state,
them all as the blob and the deep state.
You don't believe in that concept?
No, not really.
So I hope in our manifesto, one of the key pledges should be major civil service reform. We need to reform it. Too much power, too many of them, ministers dancing to civil servants' tune. No. Ministers are elected, they should be making decisions. We should be reducing the size of the state, cutting taxes and actually running the country more efficiently.
Can I ask you an honest question, Andrew? How much power does the civil service wield amongst ministers? Because we saw with the likes of Dominic Raab, he was accused of being a bully when, in actual fact, I've heard on good grounds that he was just, you know, like he had high standards, he liked getting things done. If they don't like you politically, and we know that the civil service is riddled with leftists and people, you know, of that ilk, how easy or hard can they make your job?
I fear you're making a point, Ben. I'm afraid that I think the civil servants, if they don't like your politics, they like what you're trying to do, they'll find ways of delaying, stopping you. And as we found with Dominic Raab, Priti Patel went through a similar thing. I think Suella too. Civil servants round up against the minister, and I don't think that's right. I think that the civil servants have now got way too much control over what happens. We need to reform the civil service.
Esther?
I think that's a very valid point. There is power in numbers. I think one of the things that really bothers me about the civil servants is you can get accused of something as a minister or a government official, and the person who's accusing you is anonymous, and the person they don't go through any sort of public scrutiny.
Is that the case?
Well, yes, but that's what happened with Dominic. We don't know the nature. We don't know who accused Dominic Raab or which group of people. We don't know, you know, what basically anything internally that went on, but we know that Dominic Raab was the face of this kind of smear campaign. And I do think that's a problem because that's just unfair. Regardless of whether you agree with someone's politics or not, they should be at least entitled to some sort of justice. So I do agree there. My issue is not necessarily from people working from home. It depends on how, like, what you're doing and whether you're being
3 days a week, though, out of 5?
That's the thing. If you think that you can do your job working from home for a 4-day week but receiving 5 days a day, great. You're only employed for 4 days a week and we cut the force. You're making the best case to slim down the workforce.
But isn't the whole point work smarter, not harder? It's not about the quantity of time. It's about the quality of time.
If you can work faster,
but if you can do that job in that amount of time and then you have a nice time off, then your work-life balance is better and you're more productive.
Why do you get paid for your time off?
Because then you are more productive in the time that you're there.
OK,
you need interaction between people that work together. If you're not together, you're not talking about issues and you don't get things done.
OK, I'd argue they're all sitting at home in their underpants watching Loose Women, but let me show you this video.
Recharging, good for the
very funny. Online news outfit Politics Joe went out and asked those on the streets if they were proud of their country, and they came across this charming fella.
I hate England. This place sucks. The majority of people that I've met in England that are English, no, not all of them, obviously, you can't speak for everyone ever, but there's a good proportion of them that are just horrible people. The government sucks, the weather's awful, the job market's terrible, we get paid terribly. I mean, obviously the NHS now was really good and now it's not being funded nearly enough. No, I'm not particularly proud to be British. And we've got awful stereotypes for the rest of the world. I mean, we're the most obnoxious comes to holidays and it's just horrible. We refuse to learn other people's languages and it's disgusting. No, I'd rather be French.
Go on then, mate. Get on a dinghy. Off you go to Calais or Dunkirk. Esther, are you proud to be English, British?
Yeah, but I'm not surprised by his views. This is the thing. That's another thing that bothers me. I'm not bothered by what he said. Of course, he's entitled to his opinion. I'm bothered with people's patriotism being linked to the state of the country or decisions made by politicians. That's not real patriotism.
Andrew?
Well, he should be ashamed. Doesn't he realise that his forebears fought for our freedom and democracy? He lives in a free society today because of what our ancestors have given us, and we should cherish what we've got, not rubbish our own country.
Yeah. Amy, very quickly.
Well, I think that, Andrew, you should be ashamed on behalf of the government that you've put that man in that mood to say those things. He's a disgruntled constituent, potentially.
Gen Zers, they haven't got a clue about anything. You know, they think they know everything. Time to crown tonight's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. Andrew.
Well, my Greatest Britain is England's patron saint, St George.
I think you've won that one.
Celebrating St George's Day, and I think that we should give him the accolade because it's time we celebrated love of country and pride in being English.
I think Amy would have something to say about that, because in the green room she was banging on about him being Turkish or something.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wouldn't be a proper lefty if I didn't say he's a migrant who was born in Palestine and he'd be on the way to Rwanda.
Well, at least
is he our patron saint?
Amy, at least
how inclusive we are.
At least you accept he was a working migrant, he's an economic migrant, and, you know, that's very interesting. Union Jackass?
Well, it's his Dr. Shola. She says in her tweet today, I find nothing inspiring or patriotic about Britain's St George's flag. Why do these people hate our country so much? I think she should get the Union Jackass.
She's so divisive.
So divisive.
Some would argue even racist.
Anti-British, anti-everything, wants to drag the country down.
Why did she get away with it?
I don't know, but I don't think she should be tolerated, frankly.
It is free speech. And
it's quite offensive. Some of the things she said, quite offensive.
What's your thoughts on Shola?
I just don't know. I don't mean this to say that people can't have their views, but I generally think she just hates being here. I'm like, you don't have to be here.
Well, why doesn't she?
She doesn't seem to enjoy it here. I've never heard her say anything positive. And she also mentioned that she was like Nigerian royalty. So I'm like, if I was any sort of royalty, I'd be in the country where I'm royalty.
Well, it's a bit weird. Like, if I was in a place that I didn't enjoy and I hated so much, maybe she loves.
Yeah, she just. The thing is, I don't mind her views. She just generally seems really unhappy.
Why do people hate our country so much?
I don't know. I've seen her have a laugh.
Maybe you know her better, but every time I've seen her or interacted with her, she just seems really...
Who is my Union Jackass? Dr. Shola, of course. I just don't understand why she's so divisive. She's very toxic. Some would argue she's racist. In actual fact, it can't be that much fun living your life like that, constantly angry at everyone, constantly angry at the country.
She just wants to make things a little bit better.
I don't think you do that.
Maybe she just needs a holiday.
Maybe.
She just needs some help.
Maybe she should enter GB News Big Giveaway, Greek cruise, £10,000 cash, etc., etc. Good luck, Shola. Guys, thank you so much for tonight. Esther Krakue, Andrew Rosindell, Amy Nickell-Turner, and thank you at home for watching as well. Really appreciate all your messages. Patrick, you'll be pleased to know, is back tomorrow with a new tan, I hope. Next up, it's Headliners. Good night.